Alright, I'm going to try to hit all of the heads-up display elements that I have going on here. So the most important thing is the display text function in the HUD.cpp. So yeah, what this does is take in a reference to a list of runes. I call them runes instead of glyphs because for whatever reason it just wouldn't let me create a glyph class. I tried for like 10 minutes and it was just having none of it, so I called it rune. Um, yeah, so this is using the Flyweight pattern, and I do have a rune factory that is keeping an object pool, just like we intended to have. So sprite sheet, this is essentially the same as the example that you gave us. Um, so it's going through all of these. Um, so I'm using this font, alphabet texture, and mapping all of these characters to certain things. So the flyweight pattern is implemented correctly. If you need to take a closer look at it, by all means. Yeah, and to show you the factory is implemented correctly. Alright, so the heads-up display, I am, at the beginning here, this is the initialization for the attractor mode. I am just using a bunch of dummy data for the actual like high scores and whatnot, except for the actual high score that updates, and that is offloaded to the player. So I can show you that when we go over the player manager. Let's see. Yeah, so pencil is actually what I'm using, or a turbo pencil rather, is what I'm using for offloading the draw functions. Because I wanted to have a draw function in heads-up display, and I had it inheriting from game object, but that was causing a lot of issues, so I'm kind of using a strategy pattern, not really, because I'm not actually switching between anything, but it's just using a pointer to the pencil to actually call the draw sprite for each one of these. So, let's see. Yeah, so most of this is going to be... Oh, yeah, the grid block. So this is what I'm using to have collisions with the centipede. So it's inheriting from blocking elements. And if we take a look at mushroom, the mushroom game object is actually inheriting from blocking element 2, and this has a lot of the functions that are necessary to interface with the grid. Yeah, so unfortunately I couldn't get this working with the blaster because there was some like weird offset issues. So the blaster would sort of like go through half of the mushroom but not the other half. So I just used the collision system included with Teal for that. Just make sure I'm still recording here, because that would be devastating. Okay. Yeah, so blocking element is what is controlling the grid block in heads-up display. Let's see. So in sprite sheets, I think it's in sprite sheet. Is it in sprite sheet? Oh dear. Here we go. So in display text, I'm actually instantiating a new grid block here. I don't have a factory for the grid blocks, but it is popping in a new one. That's probably a reason why I'm getting so many weird errors with the mushrooms. I think it's because I'm not using a factory for this, and this was one of the last things that I threw in and implemented, and I think it might be causing some issues. But yeah, so I'm calling add element, which just adds this to the linked list of mushrooms that I have. So yeah, there we go. I might as well go over the player as well, since that's kind of intrinsically linked to the heads-up display. So I've got a player base class, nothing too complicated. This method doesn't do anything. This is for player 2. It's never called, so don't worry. So the draw function is going through two different like lists. So one is for the heads-up display, and then the other is for the actual like player, the player's score. So display HS, display high score. So that's just going to display the actual high score if the player score is greater than the current high score, which is stored in Game Manager. So again, nothing overly complicated with that. So the player manager is set up as a singleton, and this is essentially a factory for the players. So I'm not sure if this is the correct implementation of this, but it is implementing player one and player AI, or rather, it's calling new on both of those respectively, and using the base class. So as a result, I kind of have to mess with the recycled items. So I have yeah. Oh, I guess I didn't do that for this. But I do this somewhere else with the yeah, it actually wouldn't be a problem with this. But I do this with the centipede. So I'm recycling centipede, and it's recycling a head and a body, and both of those are too different to like be in the same stack. So I have to sort of mess with the recycling for that. Anyway, so there's player one, player two, which is not implemented, so that's never called. I'm not going to worry about that. So I have an initialize function for the player AI and player one, which are called at the beginning. Have a dummy heads-up display using display text. Yeah, so the player manager is sort of what's or the player class rather is controlling the current mushroom field, the current ship, and the current input. So let's just go on and look at the input from here. So the AI input, I definitely showed you this before with the strategy pattern. Yeah, so that's being implemented through the player manager, and all of that is being set up in the game manager, which I realize is a little bit top heavy. His friends are starting to talk about him. He's getting a little fat, but regardless, we have a init, which just inits the keyboard player, and init attractor mode, which is the AI. So I have a bunch of functions that are called respectively on these. But yeah, that's how I have it set up right now. Yeah, that's about all I need to explain for that. Let's see. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop. I think that's like all of the managers that I have. I'm just trying to think. No, yeah, those are all of the managers that I have. Again, if you need to take a closer look at all of this code, the game manager is a little convoluted. I have a bunch of functions that are called, but I think it's all working properly. There might be some cleanup issues, which is why I'm having issues during gameplay. But yeah, all of it's interfacing with one another pretty relatively smoothly. Okay, that's about it for this.